The creak of old floorboards echoed through the abandoned government building. Dust drifted lazily through the sunlight spilling in from cracked windows. Behind a rusted filing cabinet, buried under decades of rotting papers, a leather-bound ledger lay forgotten. Inside, rows of names, thousands, each marked with a red X. No one had seen this file in over 40 years. It would take a lost backpack, a stolen camera, and a grieving grandmother to uncover a story buried deeper than the dead. A story of silence and erasure. In 2022, Clara Mensah was just another graduate student from Ghana, attending a cultural anthropology program in Warsaw, Poland. A curious mind and a penchant for digging too deep, she had chosen to focus her thesis on post-colonial memory and historical amnesia in Eastern Europe. Her friends called it depressing. Her professor called it ambitious. Clara simply wanted the truth. She chose to spend the summer in a remote village near the border of Belarus and Ukraine, Biala Dolina. It was the kind of place Google Maps had trouble locating. One road in, one road out. No post office, no cell service. Just fading wooden homes, suspicious stares, and the kind of silence that hummed louder than words. Clara wasn't there for comfort. She was there because of a rumor passed down by an elderly Holocaust survivor in Krakow. A tale of an ethnic minority that had once lived in that area, erased so completely it wasn't even mentioned in Soviet archives. The woman whispered the word like it was cursed. The Lemkos. They were the first to vanish. No one else spoke of them. No memorials, no books, not even a tombstone. But Clara had found something. An old man, a retired railway worker, mute from a stroke, but sharp in his eyes. He handed her a map, hand-drawn, wrapped in linen, and pointed toward the woods behind the village. Just one word written in jagged pencil, Pamitaj. Remember. Clara followed it. 2 kilometers into the woods, she found the ruins, barely distinguishable from nature now. Collapsed stone walls, iron handles jutting from soil, a child's shoe buried under moss. She took photos, dozens. But one night, someone broke into her cabin. Only one thing was stolen, her camera. Clara was shaken but undeterred. She reported it to the local police outpost, if you could call it that. A single officer, who never made eye contact, scribbled down a few notes and waved her off. But Clara had backups. Cloud storage. She posted one photo online in a private research group. The photo showed an engraving on a stone, half eroded by time. It read, "Here lay the children of the fire. May their voices haunt the guilty." The next morning, her university revoked her field research funding, citing safety concerns. Her professor urged her to return. Her Airbnb host, a middle-aged widow, warned her to leave immediately. But Clara stayed. She began interviewing the villagers again, this time under different pretenses. Most remained tight-lipped, until she met Anna Nowak. Anna was 86, thin, fragile hands, eyes like hollow marbles. She lived alone in a crumbling manor that reeked of damp stone and pickled cabbage. First, Anna denied everything. But on Clara's third visit, the old woman handed her a biscuit tin. Inside were 4 yellowed photographs, a broken locket, and a blood-stained armband. The armband bore a symbol Clara didn't recognize. Not a swastika, not a hammer and sickle. A stylized hawk, pierced through the eye. Anna whispered, "My brother, he was taken. They said he was disloyal, but he was 6 years old. They took him to the camp past the river. Said he had Lemko blood. We never saw him again." Clara tried to trace this camp. No such location was registered in Soviet or Polish military records. But a Ukrainian historian friend helped her uncover something chilling. Operation Vistula. In 1947, over 140,000 ethnic minorities, Lemkos, Boykos, Ukrainians, were forcibly relocated under the guise of suppressing Ukrainian nationalist uprisings. But Clara discovered evidence suggesting that many never made it to resettlement zones. They disappeared. No official deaths, no graves, no records, just vanished. One line in an unmarked file read, "Batch 37, Route Terminated. Status. Null. Clara's emails to historians were increasingly ignored. Her calls went unanswered, but she kept digging. She wrote an exposé draft, planned to leak it to major news outlets. Then, one night, her landlord knocked on her door. He was pale, trembling. "You need to leave," he said. "Tonight. They came asking about you. Black SUV. No plates." Clara packed what she could and took the night train to Warsaw. 3 days later, the abandoned government building, where she'd found the ledger, burned to the ground. The fire was ruled accidental. No investigation. The backup cloud server storing Clara's photos? Deleted. Her account wiped. And then she vanished. Not permanently, but something changed. 6 months later, Clara was back in Ghana, silent on the subject. She never submitted her thesis, never spoke of Biala Dolina again. But in a dusty library in Accra, a student researching post-colonial disappearances came across a document tucked inside a Polish folklore book. It was the first page of Clara's draft. Across the top, scrawled in thick black ink, "This was not a war. It was a cleansing." Weeks later, that same student, AO, received an unmarked package. Inside, a flash drive, a torn page from Clara's journal, and a single Polaroid. It showed a mass grave, and someone standing at its edge. The face, though blurred by age and grain, looked eerily like a current Polish politician. Someone running for president. It was 3:47 a.m. in Lagos when AO clicked on the flash drive. The first folder was named simply 37. Inside were 17 high-resolution images, some clearly taken in the 1940s. Grainy, grayscale horror. Wagons of children behind barbed wire, bodies stacked like cordwood beside a riverbank, and a partially destroyed sign in Cyrillic. The translation? Rehabilitation Zone 37, no return. But the final image froze AO's breath. It was in color, dated 2021. The man standing near the uncovered grave had aged, but the sharp cheekbones, cold eyes, and stiff posture matched recent campaign posters for Alexander Rydz, the hardline Polish presidential candidate who ran on preserving national integrity. AO's heart thudded. He wasn't just uncovering history. He was witnessing its protectors. AO emailed 5 human rights organizations, 4 investigative journalists, and 1 whistleblower site with encrypted links. No reply. The next day, his Gmail account was locked. Instagram? Wiped. University portal? Blocked. He was no hacker, just a student with a conscience. So he went analog. He booked a flight to Warsaw. No one knew, not even his mother. He only took a small carry-on, a notebook, and the drive. In Warsaw, he reached out to the last person Clara had emailed before her silence. Dr. Zofia Czerwinska, a retired anthropologist once blacklisted for her outspoken critiques of Poland's collaborationist history. She lived in a 2-room flat near the old town, surrounded by dusty books, yellowing newspapers, and jars of preserved vegetables. She didn't greet AO with a smile. She looked over her shoulder, pulled him in, and bolted the door. "You shouldn't have come," she said in Polish-accented English. "But I suppose you were meant to." Zofia poured bitter tea and unspooled a truth darker than AO imagined. "There was no resettlement," she whispered. "It was extermination, ethnic cleansing dressed as policy. The Lemkos weren't the only ones. Roma, Ukrainians, Tatar minorities, undesirable identities who refused assimilation." She handed him a brittle photo. 3 children standing in line, only one with a name scribbled on the back. Bogdan Rydz, the future politician. "He wasn't a soldier. He was a camp officer," she said. "He led executions, then reinvented himself in 1950 as a teacher, then a bureaucrat. And now his son, Alexander, wants to be president." AO blinked. "Wait, his father, Bogdan, he's still alive?" Zofia nodded. "He lives under state protection, a villa in Zakopane. Few know, fewer speak. But Clara," Zofia lowered her voice. "She went there. She spoke to him. What did he say?" Zofia's eyes watered. "He confessed, but only to her. She recorded it. But then, she vanished. That night, Ao broke into Clara's old storage locker, using a name Zofia had uncovered from a university registry. Inside, behind a false panel in an old suitcase, he found it. A dictaphone, rusty but functional. He pressed play. The voice crackled, then hissed. "This is Clara Mensa. July 14th, Zakopane." Silence. Then a male voice, trembling. "They told us they were traitors, but they were children. I shot the first one. I was 17. I remember his hat. Blue. Like mine." Ao dropped the device. His skin crawled. This was the proof. The kind people killed for. He transferred the files to an encrypted hard drive and uploaded them to 5 dark web data dumps. But before he could leave the storage unit, he noticed something strange. A motion sensor light flickering in the corridor. Footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. He slipped out the back and disappeared into the Warsaw night. 3 days later, every major European news outlet received an anonymous email with the dictaphone audio. None aired it. And in Lagos, Ao's mother received a call from an unknown number. A man's voice. "Tell your son to stop digging." That evening, Ao's hostel bed in Warsaw was empty, but a letter was found tucked beneath the pillow. It read, "If I go missing, look for the train manifests from 1947. One word keeps showing up. Projekt NIEMI." NIEMI, in Polish, means mute. For weeks, Ao went dark, living off the grid in Lviv, Ukraine, with help from a journalist friend of Clara's, Katarina Horbachevsky, a war reporter used to government surveillance and assassination threats. Ao searched for the key Clara hinted at in her letter. Train manifests from 1947. Projekt NIEMI. Katarina was the first to crack it. "NIEMI," she said over a candlelit dinner, "isn't just a word. It's a code, not just mute. It's short for Najisniejsi Niejdźsasi, non-existent minorities." She unrolled a crumpled page, torn from an old Soviet military manual. "Projekt NIEMI wasn't just about killing," she whispered. "It was about deleting." The operation wasn't complete until the name of the victim no longer existed in any document, schoolbook, or graveyard. Ao stared at the page, at the line stamped in red. "Silence is victory." Together, they traveled to the Carpathian Mountains, to a decommissioned Soviet rail hub. Hidden beneath a collapsed tunnel, they found an old cargo car, sealed with rust, vines, and decades of snowmelt. Inside were crates, photos, documents, broken toys, earrings, schoolbooks burned at the edges, and manifests, long lists of names with identical annotations. Relocated, NIEMI 37. No destinations, no returns. Ao's hands trembled as he flipped through the sheets. And there, on one page, he found it. Clara Mensa. Date of detention, October 17th, 2022. Location, Zakopane. Status, relocated, NIEMI 37. He fell back, breath frozen in his chest. Clara hadn't gone home. She had been silenced. Ao and Katarina scanned everything. They created a live digital archive, encrypted, redundant, and irreversible once published. They called it the NIEMI files. At exactly 7 p.m. Central European Time, the files went live across dozens of platforms. Clara's audio confession, Bogdan Rydz's voice, the train manifests, photos of mass graves. The international response was instant and furious. The Polish government declared the archive foreign disinformation. But in cities around Europe, Berlin, Prague, Lviv, Krakow, people lit candles. Lemko descendants thought to be extinct came forward. Survivors from the Operation Vistula years finally had names to match their memories. A quiet revolution of truth had begun. Katarina returned to Lviv to continue her reporting. Ao returned to Nigeria, where he was offered asylum by 2 different European countries. He declined. Instead, he taught history, memory, justice. He carried Clara's journal everywhere. And in early spring, he received a package. No note, no return address. Inside was a single Polaroid. Clara, alive. standing outside a refugee safe house in Finland. Her eyes still fierce, still defiant. Post-it on the back read, "They tried to silence us, but silence ends the moment someone remembers." 5 years later, a memorial was erected at the edge of Biala Dolina, a stone arch carved with the names recovered from the NIEMI files. Ao stood among villagers, activists, and grandchildren of the erased. The wind stirred wildflowers around their feet. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. Above the arch were just 2 words, "We remember," and below it, etched in Clara's handwriting, "Justice does not begin with punishment. It begins with truth. Some genocides happen in silence, but silence, when broken, becomes a roar the world can't unhear." If this story moved you, don't let it end here. Candle, share this video to break the silence on forgotten genocides. Books, comment below if you've heard similar stories erased from history. Bell, subscribe for more real, untold true crime stories that the world tried to bury. Lightbulb, tag someone who needs to see this. Help us make remembering an act of resistance. Brain, because memory is power, and truth is how justice begins. Hashtag We Remember, hashtag NIEMI Files, hashtag True Crime Uncovered.